Welcome to Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimmin Peterson, formerly Conversations with Kimmin. This podcast is a space for inspiration, soulful insights, and meaningful life lessons. Your host, Kimmin Peterson, draws from personal stories and powerful conversations with remarkable people to help illuminate your path. These episodes reflect his lived experiences and thoughtful perspectives, all aimed at encouraging you to live life with greater authenticity, joy, and ease. Your Inner Advocate is here to help you tune in, trust your inner wisdom, and move through life with more clarity, flow, and fulfillment.
Welcome back. Today I want to share something with you that's simple, and yet it's completely life-changing. And it's interesting because I'm not going to end off with a complete solution. Sometimes I think we need to be solution-based, but sometimes we have to admit we don't have the answer, but we're willing to be passionately curious. So I heard this story the other day, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It's one that kind of burrows into your mind and quietly rearranges how you see yourself and your reactions and your peace. So this story, I saw it on social media, probably TikTok, maybe YouTube. I watch a lot of things. And the algorithm, it's funny how the algorithm works, eh? Whatever you go searching, it feeds you more of. So I am always looking for positivity and quotes and good speakers. And so the algorithm really can work in a good way. I may mispronounce this person's last name, but hopefully they won't be offended by that. The name's Sam Dema, and you can find him. You can find him on TikTok, and I'm sure Instagram, YouTube, and online at samdema.com. And he's an inspirational and motivational speaker. He's also an author, and he's pretty much dedicated his life to having a positive impact in the world, which is always, I love that. So look him up, Sam Dema. Follow him on all the platforms. Take a look at his website. Maybe buy his books. He's got 2 books too. And the funny thing about this young man is sometimes you hear him talking about oh man, I'm too young to do this. And I look in contrast, maybe I'm usually thinking I'm too old to do this. So hopefully we're both wrong. I think he was wrong that he's too young, because I think if you're passionate and you want to move in a direction to change the world, that you should do it, no matter how young or how old you are. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase this story, and then I'm going to explain what it meant to me. And it was a simple story. He was talking about this professor he had, and who used to tell about life situations and ask really powerful questions. And the professor started one of the classes with this scenario. He said, imagine you're rushing across campus carrying a cup of coffee, and someone bumps into you and you spill the coffee on yourself. Why did you spill the coffee? And people were answering, well, because somebody bumped into me. Professor, no. And I guess there was a few other answers maybe. And finally, he waited for a bit, and then he said, you spilled the coffee because coffee was what you were carrying in your cup. If you had water, you'd have spilled water. If you had juice, you spilled juice. And the line stuck with me, because it's not the bump. It's what's inside your cup. And life doesn't determine what spills out of you. It only reveals it. My personal reflection on what's in your cup. The story really made me pause, because I started to ask what's in my cup. And I do like to think of myself as a calm, compassionate, grounded, and kind. But throughout my life, I've noticed certain moments when something bumps me and what spills out, it's not always kind. When a driver doesn't stop on the crosswalk or turns left and just about to hit me, or somebody cuts me off, or I'm walking up the sidewalk and people don't give way. And I feel this sudden rush of irritation. And sometimes I yell. I just react and spill anger. And it makes me wonder, am I spilling anger because anger is what's in my cup? And not always, but there is somewhere in my cup, there's still anger. And it's just sitting beneath the surface, waiting for a reason to overflow. Now, I once heard this story that captures this perfectly. A man was cut off in traffic and exploded in anger, honking and yelling and chasing the other car. And when he finally pulled up beside the other driver, the person calmly rolled down their window and asked, "Are you okay? You seem really upset." And that simple question stopped the angry man in his tracks. He broke down. He said, "I'm so sorry. I've just been having such a bad day." And the other man said, "It's okay. It happens sometime." The first person's cup was filled with, the person who stopped and asked the question was filled with grace, curiosity, care, kindness. And the second person's cup was full of anger and pain. And what spilled out revealed exactly what was inside these two people. Dr. Wayne Dyer said, "You don't respond to life as it is. You respond to life as you are." So now I'm sitting with this realization as I'm walking, because now I used to be within 2 minutes door to door to work, and now I've got about 12 and a half to 15-minute walk. And I'm sitting with this realization that somewhere in my cup there's anger. Not rage or hatred, but just quiet, buried frustration. And it's old. It's been there for a long time. And the truth is, who I really want to be is a person whose cup is filled with grace, kindness, and compassion. That's who I want to be in this world. And it reminds me of how I used to think of personal growth was about peeling back endless layers, always trying to find something to fix and another flaw to overcome. And it seemed endless, and I was digging and digging and digging until the point I realized that I could spend the rest of my life peeling back layers and never really living. And then I came to the realization that I had to stop my self-help journey, stop peeling back the layers, and trust. Trust that when there was something there that I needed to solve, that it would bubble to the surface. And in that moment, I could look at it and I could repair whatever I need to repair and never have to go back through that cycle again. I decided to trust that when there's something to heal, it will arise to the surface. And I realized that this is one of those things. And so now I'm looking at facing the anger. And the truth is, I don't feel good when I'm angry. I really don't like it. Doesn't feel aligned with who I am or who I'm committed to being in the world. So when that feeling shows up, I don't want to ignore it. I want to understand it. And for me, when something arises, I understand that the only way to unwind is to go back. And it's my practice would be, when was the last time I felt that? It felt just like that. Felt that rage, that anger arise. And I go, what about the time before? And the time before? And the time before? And the time before? Until I can get back to the very earliest time that I felt that anger, that hurt. Because the truth is, mad is sad's bodyguard. And the truth is, majority of the things that super incredibly like affect us powerfully like that, they have nothing to do with the other person, the other thing. They have nothing to do with anything outside ourselves. Yet they do have something to do with inside ourselves. And most of these things come from our childhood. And that's where we got to go back. I was talking to somebody just yesterday, and they're going through some really tough stuff. And it's like you just see how, so many of us are playing out the things, the heartbreaks from our childhood. I call my younger version of myself my little. And my little took it on with so much responsibility that he was to make sure that the problems didn't happen. So when my brothers were fighting, that I try to stop them from fighting. And if I couldn't, I'd like run up to the bathroom, and my dad would come back downstairs, and he'd yell at them to go to bed. And I'd be coming down out of the bathroom, and he'd be like, "You go to bed too." And I'm like, "I didn't do anything." It's like, "I don't care. Go to bed." And they're like, "It's not fair." And he's like, "The world's not fair." And then my parents would get into a fight after that. And as a little guy, I took it on like it was my fault. Like I had the power. Being responsible is a beautiful thing, but it's really hard on a little. Because little people, they feel they don't intellectualize, they can't conceptualize, they can't find their way past. Not with a thinking mind. They have to go back to a feeling mind. Like I said, I do believe that mad is sad's bodyguard. Anger stands in front of our sadness, protecting us from feeling, but it's not an effective way. And I know as a child, I didn't want to feel pain, so I got angry instead. And anger felt powerful where pain felt powerless. And maybe, just maybe, this adult version right now is protecting my younger version who felt unseen, unheard, unworthy, not good enough. Maybe the sadness behind the anger, maybe it's sadness behind the anger that spills out in these moments. Behind every angry face is a hurting heart. Sometimes when I lash out at someone for not noticing me on the sidewalk, I wonder if it's really about them at all. Maybe it's old pain. Anger at life, at hardship, at unfairness I've faced. And then I just project it, transfer it onto the person in front of me when it looks like they're disrespecting me. And it's easier to get mad at somebody who bumps into you than to admit you're still carrying something heavy inside. But here's the truth. If we never face what's in our cup, we'll keep on spilling it on people who didn't fill it. So now I'm sitting like, what is my path to peace in all this? Because really what I want, what I desire, who I am, is peace, calm, kindness. And that makes it intentional. I'm going to have to be intentional about filling my cup. I'm trying to learn to fill it with grace, to pause instead of react, to ask, what am I feeling underneath this before I spill this on someone else? And I don't have all the answers. I might not have any of the answers. I just have a lot of question. But what I am, and Albert Einstein said it best: I'm passionately curious, and I'm willing to do the work, willing to pour out all the things that don't serve me, and then refill my cup with love, compassion, and understanding. You can't pour from an empty cup, but you can refill it with peace. I still wonder, after all the work I've done, why there's still anger. And I've practiced this before. There was a time in my life when I was so angry at something that happened to me as a child, which tainted so much of my life. And I was evolved enough to know that anger can't solve anything. So I was resisting my anger. What I always say is resistance causes persistence. So I'm resisting the fact that I'm angry. And that is keeping the fact that I'm angry in place. So one time I decided there's only one path to freedom, and that's acceptance. Acceptance causes disappearance. I need to give space in my life for this anger, and I need to express it. So I rage drove through this crazy road all the way up to the west coast of Vancouver Island on Long Beach. And it was raining and stormy, and there wasn't a person in sight. And I'm walking down this beach yelling and screaming at God. So angry, rage coming. And it's funny, the clouds parted for a second. Now, honestly, I don't know if truly clouds parted or if this is my experience of what happened in that moment. But I fell to my knees and I cried. And I decided to welcome anger in and say, you're welcome to stay here for as long, because now I was going from resistance causes persistence to acceptance causes disappearance. And I gave anger a space to be expressed safely and not pointed at other people. And the funny thing is, after a while, the anger started to fade. And then I realized something, that the most empathetic and compassionate human beings you'll meet on this planet, they don't just happen. Life puts them through situations that are so difficult. And it's in the overcoming of that. But having the experiential knowledge of what it feels like to hurt that bad, that's what develops empathy. And I realized that I had a level of compassion. I really cared when people were hurting. And I wanted to help. And I saw that the things that I'd been through is what actually helped me. Be able to create a space for people who are having a tough time, create a moment, create freedom to be with what they needed to be with in the moment, to feel what they needed to feel, to express what they needed to feel. And it came to the point where I didn't hate what had happened to me anymore. It came to a place of acceptance. And the interesting thing that happened through that is, as I accepted what was so, the level of empathy and compassion rose even greater. I became more wanting, more able. And then I came to the point where I really liked myself. I really liked this human being who cared and wanted to rise to the occasion when people were having tough times and support people through these moments. And I realized that I liked the fact that that's who I am. And in doing so, I realized I don't like the idea of what I went through and all that, but I like the fact that it gave me a gift, that there was gold within it. And I became more so. And later in my life, I realized that I absolutely love the human being I am. I love how much I care. And I know for certain, that I would not be this human being without the experience I had. So not only did I love my whole life, I realized that I would go through it all again 10 times over if I knew I was coming back to this place. So I'm going to work hard on this. And why is that little bit of anger there? Because honestly, I don't know why it's there. So in conclusion, maybe the question really isn't, why did I spill my coffee? But what's actually in my cup? Because life will bump you. People will bump at you. Circumstances are going to bump at you. That is a guarantee. And when they do, what spills out is what's already inside. And maybe also this is access that you didn't have before. If you don't lash out at the person in front of you, the situation in front of you, maybe you have access. Maybe you can go back down through the layers, through the years. Maybe you can find out where it comes from. And maybe you can forgive the people involved. And maybe you can apologize to yourself for holding on to this for so long, and then forgive yourself for holding it for so long. And maybe you can let it go. Because, I believe the truth is, when we take away all the things, when we solve all the issues, we fix all the problems, we heal all the wounds, all that's going to be left is love. So if anger spills out, it's an invitation to heal. If grace spills out, it's a reflection of peace. The goal isn't to avoid being bumped. It's to fill your cup with what you want the world to feel when it happens. And I honestly believe when we heal all the wounds, the only thing left for our cup is love. Thank you for listening again. Hey, if this episode touched you, please share it with someone. Someone who's working on what's in their own cup. And the truth is, I don't have the solution yet. But healing isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware, being present. And awareness and presence will change everything.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kim and Peterson, formerly Conversations with Kimmin. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.